Bonjour! Here are 5 underrated but super strong multiclasses for D&D. These look bad on the surface, but with the right combination of feats and abilities, they become broken, allowing you to one-shot bosses with a stick or to never fail an ability check ever again at level 5. Let's start with our first build.
How is a blowgun doing that much damage?
The worst weapon in D&D is probably the blowgun. It has terrible range, costs 10 gold, and only deals 1 damage on a hit. And if this wasn't bad enough, this build is going to multiclass an Arcane Trickster Rogue with a Sorcerer. So you need Intelligence for your Rogue spells and Charisma for your Sorcerer. Oh, and you're fighting with a blowgun. Surely that means that it's unplayable, right? Well, I told you some of these builds look bad on the surface. This one just happens to look atrocious. So, hear me out. For your race, pick Human with the Lucky and Alert origin feats. First level, go into Rogue. Even if the blowgun's base damage is shit, if you stack Sneak Attack on top, it becomes decent. But we don't want decent, we want great. At level 3, become an Arcane Trickster and make sure to grab the Find Familiar spell, which provides a simple way of getting advantage, by having our owl fly in and shit on them, using the help action. In addition, for some reason, our blowgun has the Vex weapon mastery, meaning that if we hit an enemy, our next attack against them has advantage, creating an infinite chain of advantage. Now, we're going to completely break the game over our knee. We are going to take the other spell that this build needs, True Strike. Now that half of you had a heart attack, hear me out. True Strike was massively changed, from being the worst cantrip in the game in 2014 to being one of the best ones in 2024. Now it allows you to make one attack with your weapon using your spellcasting modifier and adding radiant damage on top at later levels. This allows the creation of a ton of Spellblade builds, including ours, though we're not going to be a Spellblade, more of a Spell Blower? That sounds so wrong. At Rogue level 4, pick the Sharpshooter feat to increase your shit range from 25 to 100. Make sure you have 13 Charisma, then multiclass into Sorcerer. Go in there for 2 levels and grab the meta magic option, Quicken Spell. Then, back into Rogue all the way. Congratulations, you've just created a monster. But before I explain how insane this build is, if you can hit the like and subscribe buttons, that would mean a lot, especially for my editors, because I promised them that for every like we get, I'll leave them out of the basement for 1 second. Yes, we don't want them to touch grass too much now, do we? Back to the build. Let me put you in combat to explain how it works. You roll initiative, use the alert feat to go right after your owl. Have it swoop in and use the help action, so your attack has advantage. On your turn, you're going to quicken spell True Strike to cast it as a bonus action. You have advantage on the attack roll, and your blowgun is a ranged weapon, so you trigger sneak attack. And now the target is vexed, so you have advantage on your next attack. Then for your action, you're going to use the ready action and prepare to cast True Strike at the start of the next creature's turn. As a reaction, don't forget that readying a spell means that you are concentrating on it. And because sneak attack is once per turn and your second attack is on someone else's turn, it triggers again, turning your blowgun into a railgun. But what about the cost in sorcery points? Surely that's not sustainable. Au contraire, my good sir. Right now, we have 4 first level spell slots and 2 second level ones. In 2024, turning spell slots in sorcery points is free. It does not require an action, which means that we don't have 2 sorcery points. No, we have 16! And as you gain Arcane Trickster levels, you gain more spell slots, which means more sorcery points, which means more double sneak attack, which means more dead enemies. Now, would this build be better with any other ranged weapons? Well, oh look, another build.
The Skill Monkey.
This multiclass is about getting as many proficiencies as possible, as quickly as possible. There are 18 skill proficiencies in D&D, and here's how you can get all of them by level 5. Pick the new human race, which gives you 1 skill proficiency and 2 origin feats. For your origin feat, pick Skilled, which gives you 3 more skill proficiencies and is repeatable, so take it again. You now have 7 skill proficiencies and you don't even have a class yet. First level, go into Rogue for 4 more skill proficiencies and 2 expertise. Then make sure you have 13 charisma and go into Bard. Bard level 1 as a multi-class gives you 1 more skill proficiency. At level 2, you get 2 expertise. At level 3, pick your subclass, College of Lore, which gives you 3 more skill proficiencies. At level 4, take the skilled feat,
giving you your final 3 proficiencies for a total of
18 skill proficiencies, 4 skill expertise, and 1 crying DM. You will never fail a skill check. But what about combat? Well, right now you're mostly a lore bard, which is a fantastic party support with access to bard spells and cutting words. To continue the build, take another level into Bard to unlock the 3rd level crowd control spells, such as Fear or Hypnotic Pattern. Then I would go back into Rogue for 2 more levels. 1 because it gives you Cunning Action, allowing you to dash, disengage, or hide as a bonus action, giving you some extra safety on the battlefield and allowing you to reposition. Then at 3rd level, pick the Shadow Rogue subclass from Steinhardt's Guide to the Eldritch Hunt. Normally, the Shadow Rogue turns you into a sniper, which can kill enemies from the shadows, and can burn sneak attack dice to unleash powerful effects. Yes, I'm very proud of coming up with that mechanic before what he did with the 2024 version of the Rogue. I had it back in 2022, boys! We won't be using the sniper part of our subclass much, because our action is best spent on casting spells, but the shadow movement, we will make great use of it with our expertise in stealth. It does 2 things. First, gives you insane mobility because now you can merge with shadows and move in them, allowing you to squeeze in spaces as narrow as 1 inch, which is amazing to scout or to reposition on the battlefield. And 2, it gives us a way of using our sneak attack anyway, because when we come out of the shadow, we automatically fire a shot from our sniper, so we can still cast spells afterwards. This adds some much needed sustained damage to our build. Then I would go back into Bard the rest of the way. Now, with your ungodly skill checks and movement abilities, you can be the party's best Swiss Army knife, fulfilling any role that's needed. Support, scout, face. But just like a Swiss Army knife, you're not that great at dealing damage, especially compared to your fighter buddy over there with an AK-47 in his hand. I know Steinhardt's is not official D&D content, but 1, Bloodborne in D&D is cool as fuck, and 2, this is my channel, so link in the description. By the way, our Eldritch Hunt stock is running low, so if you want to grab a copy before we run out, now is the time. And if you play on Foundry, I would highly suggest getting the module. Matt did a fantastic job with the conversion from the trick weapons which transform seamlessly in your hands to the monsters which are absolutely brutal. Now, obviously I'm a bit biased because I wrote the thing, but I do think it is one of the best modules for Foundry. And if you play on Roll20, just get Foundry. With all that being said, if you want to stick to official content, instead of the Shadow subclass, you can grab the Swashbuckler or the Assassin. You'll lose out on mobility and damage, but the bonus to your initiative is incredibly helpful because it will allow you to drop those massive crowd control spells early. Talking about initiative, our next build is a monster at it, and a combination I did not think possible.
the Salty Dog.
This is a Ranger multiclass. Yes, you heard that right. The worst class for multiclassing, and not only that, we are multiclassing it with a Sea Druid, a subclass that many consider to be the worst druid. I didn't think it was possible either, but Chris from Tree and Monk really found a gem there. Pick human as your race and grab the lucky and alert origin feats. Then go into Ranger for the first 5 levels. At level 4, your first feat will be Warcaster, because you will be concentrating almost all the time with this build and need the extra wisdom. For your Ranger subclass, pick the Gloomstalker. It's a monster of a subclass which gives you extra damage and basically permanent invisibility as long as you're in darkness, which means permanent advantage on your attacks. And on top of that, it makes you a killer at initiative because you get to add your wisdom modifier, and with the alert feat you also add your proficiency and you have good dexterity. So your bonus is going to be like +10 to initiative, so you can kill enemies before they get to move. Make sure to grab the Long Strider and Jump spells which add massive mobility to your character and do not cost concentration. Instead, your concentration will be on Hunter's Mark, which, for all the crap it gets, is still good at low levels. Especially because we're going to make use of 2-weapon fighting. At first with a short sword and a scimitar using Vex and Nick as weapon masteries, allowing us at level 5 to make 3 attacks per turn for up to 3d6 extra damage from Hunter's Mark. But we're going to switch those weapons real soon, and instead we're going to grab a magic bonk stick. Because if Dark Souls taught me anything, it's to fear the naked guy which carries nothing but a big stick. And I'm not talking about the one in between his legs. At level 6 we multiclass into Druid, throw our short sword and grab a club instead for our main attacks. Because we get the Shillelagh cantrip, which not only allows us to attack with our wisdom, it also turns our damage dice for the weapon into a d10, which scales at higher levels. And it still allows 2-weapon fighting because the club is a light weapon. Level 2 gives us Wild Shape, which we don't care about because we're not a fucking furry. I hope. But level 3 gives us the Sea Druid subclass with Wrath of the Sea, a 10-foot emanation coming out of you which deals 4d6 damage at this level as a bonus action. As you can imagine, now we're going to drop Hunter's Mark like the hot garbage it is and instead use our bonus action for Wrath of the Sea for the extra damage. Yeah, go cry in the corner, Hunter's Mark. This is right on time as it frees our concentration for some of the new powerful druid spells, things like Moonbeam, Conjure Animals, or Conjure Woodland Beings at later levels. So in combat, you move first with your massive initiative. Rush in, make 3 attacks, 2 of them with Shillelagh, don't forget to add the Dreadful Strike damage from the Gloomstalker subclass, and then bonus action Wrath of the Sea for even more damage and pushing the enemies back. Then, as part of your movement, you're going to move Conjure Animals or Conjure Woodland Beings to deal even more damage. Here's the graph of the damage, courtesy of Treant Monk. Green is this build, and orange is a good ranger build. Notice how we're just better. Keep in mind that this graph shows single target damage. We are dropping AoEs all the time, so our actual total damage is even higher. If you want the full 40-minute breakdown of this build, here is Treant Monk's video. Next up, one of my personal favorite builds.
The Smiting Guardian.
As you know, barbarians and spellcasters don't multiclass well together because rage prevents spellcasting and concentration. So, let's multiclass a barbarian with a spellcaster. From the name, you might think that we're going to take paladin levels. But no, since smite became a spell, paladin is no longer a very good multiclass for barbarians. Instead, this is the idea of the character. You are a pirate that sunk alongside your ship, but you were brought back from the dead by an abomination, forever to be haunted by your dead crewmates. You can pick any race, but Reborn works great here. And if your DM doesn't allow 2014 races, just kill him. But if you're afraid of prison and dropping the soap, well, you can always pick the orc and reflavor the relentless endurance as you coming back from the dead. For barbarian, pick Path of the Ancestral Guardian, which allows you to summon spirits in battle, representing your dead crew. This gives you the Ancestral Protector ability, which says that anytime you hit an enemy, they have disadvantage on attack rolls against anyone but you, making you a phenomenal defender, and we're going to triple down on that roll by taking some Warlock levels. The Great Old One is perfect to represent the being that brought you back from the dead, and Warlock is going to give us some non-concentration spells, which we can use even if we're raging. First is the Fiendish Vigor Invocation, which we can cast as an action at any point during the day, so outside of battle, and will give us 12 temporary hit points, which will help in keeping us alive. The second is the Mirror Image spell, which we can cast right before raging and will make it very hard for enemies to hit us. Third is Pact of the Blade, which unlocks Eldritch Smite, the only way for us to use Smite since the change to the rules. So now we can turn our spell slots into Smite slots and split enemies in half, especially because as a barbarian, we have advantage almost all the time with reckless attacks, which means that we have twice as likely a chance to land a critical hit. At Warlock 4, pick the Sentinel feat so enemies can't leave your reach. Then at Warlock 5, pick Thirsting Blade to get extra attack. And finally at level 6, we get Clairvoyant Combatant, a fantastic ability which gives enemies disadvantage on attacks against us and gives us advantage on attacks against them. And you can burn your spell slots to keep reusing this ability, but crucially it is not a spell, so we can use it even if we rage. So now we combine Ancestral Protectors with Clairvoyant Combatant, which means that enemies have disadvantage on attack rolls against everyone, which will make you a massive pain for your DM, and they will have to kill you if they want to be able to get to anyone else in the party.
Honorable mention, the Kid.
This Druid Fighter multiclass is getting an honorable mention. The core idea behind this build is simple. You are a kid powered by your imagination. You go on adventures with a wooden stick as a sword and a lid as a shield. You don't see the world as it actually is, but rather a childlike fairy tale. Take one level into Fighter, then one level into Druid to get Shillelagh, and then back into Fighter all the way. As we know, Shillelagh makes the stick you hold magical, and in time it will deal as much damage as a great axe. For Fighter, take the Champion subclass and build a regular sword and board character with a quarterstaff. The new Champion Fighter subclass is brutally strong, and with feats like Polar Master and Sentinel, you will demolish your enemies. Yeah, the damage is that good. In your eyes, you're just a kid having fun stabbing his plushies, but in the eyes of the party, you're a vicious monster eviscerating his enemies. This is only an honorable mention because Fighter is like the best class to multiclass in 2024, and you don't even need to multiclass it to play this build because you can just grab the Magic Initiate as your origin feat and get Shillelagh this way. Next up on our list, an absolute monster.
The Gambler.
This build is going to be a Sorcerer Cleric multiclass, another combination which is very rarely used because in general it's not that good.
It's the biggest piece of dog shit.
It forces you to split your ability scores in between Wisdom and Charisma, and it delays the acquisition of high-impact, high-level spells for both classes. But trust me, it's worth it for this build. For your race, go Halfling, which gives you the Lucky trait, allowing you to reroll any Nat 1s. And while you're at it, get the Lucky Origin feat. Or trying to build a Lucky Gambler. For your first level, go into Sorcerer. This will give you proficiency with con saves, which is very important to maintain concentration. It will also give you access to the spell this entire build is based around, Chromatic Orb. In 2024, it received a massive buff. Now the spell deals 3d8 damage plus 1d8 for each spell slot level above 1. And it can be of a ton of different damage types. Most of the time, we're going to grab lightning damage, because it is an immunity that very few monsters have, and we do not care about resistances. But more on that in a second. Now, the damage of the spell is decent for sure, but the juicy bit is that if you roll the same damage on 2 different dice, so for example 2 2s or 2 8s, the spell bounces and goes hit another target, multiplying the damage of the spell. And now the gamble begins. The higher level you cast the spell, the more likely it is to bounce.
Nerd alert!
With the first level spell slot, you have a 34.4% chance of the spell bouncing, all the way to a 100% chance with a 7th level spell. The sweet spot is going to be 4th level because there you get a 92% chance of it bouncing and it's not a crazy high level spell. Now keep in mind, Chromatic Orb can only bounce a number of times equal to the spell level and it can never hit a target twice. But even with those limitations, you can destroy a crowd of enemies. And as a sorcerer, we have a lot of tricks to stack the deck in our favor. But first, we're going to make sure we have 13 wisdom and take 1 level into cleric. This does many things for us. First, it gives us heavy armor and shields, massively increasing our AC. And it is the only multiclass that allows you to do that, because any other multiclasses from sorcerer would only give you medium armor at best. Second, we keep our spell slot progression. Sure, we're not learning the high level spells, but it doesn't matter because we're focused on Chromatic Orb, and the number of spell slots we have is not delayed at all, so we can keep blasting it. Third, it gives us access to Bless, giving us an extra 1d4 to all our attack rolls, and we're going to make a lot of those. Now back into Sorcerer. At 2nd level, we're going to grab Seeking Spell and Empowered Spell as our meta magic options. Seeking Spell allows us to reroll a missed attack roll. Combine that with Lucky and, well, Lucky, and it's going to be very hard for us to miss any attacks. Empowered Spell, on the other hand, makes us reroll damage rolls on all spells we cast, meaning that we can use it to increase the chance of rolling doubles on Chromatic Orb, increasing the bounce chance. And I can hear the question already. Does Empower Spell affect all the damage rolls from all the bounces or just from the first attack roll? Well, according to the sage advice for Scorching Ray, you can distribute empowered spells among all your attack rolls, as long as you respect the charisma limit. So it's safe to assume that the same applies for Chromatic Orb, but confirm with your DM first. Then, for Sorcerer 3, grab the Draconic Sorcerer subclass, giving you extra health. At level 4, pick the Elemental Adept feat and go for lightning damage. From now on, every time you use Chromatic Orb, you'll ignore resistance to lightning damage. And anytime you roll a 1 on a spell that deals lightning damage, it counts as a 2 on the dice. As written, that works with Chromatic Orb, which means we just stacked the deck even more in our favor and increased our chances of hitting multiple enemies. Now back into Cleric until Cleric level 3, where we will take the Tempest Domain subclass, giving us a monster of a channel divinity, Wrath of the Storm. This automatically maxes the damage of any lightning or thunder that you deal. This is your all-in, your last resort. Because when you use it, there is no dice roll. You just take the max damage, meaning that there is no more bounces after this one, meaning that you have to pick the exact right time when to use it. For example, at level 7, we can use our 4th level spell slot to cast Chromatic Orb. With Innate Sorcery active and Bless, we'll have advantage on all attack rolls and add another d4, so we'll assume that we just hit everyone. Use the Empowered spell Metamagic, and with a near 100% chance of bouncing, you're gonna hit 4 enemies, and on the last one, you're gonna use Wrath of the Storm to deal max damage. That's a total of 186 damage dealt at level 7. This is insane. But that's with perfect luck. Granted, with this build, we've stacked the deck heavily in our favor, but another very possible scenario is this. You make your first attack roll, hit, and none of the dice are the same, so the spell doesn't bounce. And now you haven't used Wrath of the Storm, meaning that the enemy you wanted to deal big damage to takes no damage instead. Now you understand why I call this build the Gambler. I mean, there is another reason. The only limitation of this build, apart from your luck, is that it costs 50 gold every time you cast Chromatic Orb, meaning that it's really expensive if you miss.
Now, the 50 gold diamond is not consumed by the spell.
Well, never mind then. Go crush your enemies. La rivedere. We won't be...